Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe, Mary Kay Cabot, Ashley Bastock. We are continuing our 23 questions series, getting you ready for Browns training camp. Today, we're going to talk about two offensive players. We're going to talk Nick Chubb. Everybody loves talking Nick Chubb. And we are going to talk David Njoku. Everybody loves talking David Njoku, too. So two questions here about two offensive players. And we'll start with Nick and his role in the offense and how it might change this season. Mary Kay, you I completely missed this at the end of minicamp. So you kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I think it was in a Ham K pod a little while ago when you mentioned that Stump Mitchell said Nick Chubb could have 1,000 receiving yards this season. And he did say that Nick Chubb could have 1,000 receiving yards. And he also mentioned, I thought it was interesting, when I went back and read through the transcript as well, somebody asked him, has Nick Chubb improved as a pass catcher? And Stump was really blunt. This is just how Stump is. He's like, no, we just haven't thrown him the ball. So this is kind of the evolution of Nick Chubb in this offense, right? We know what he can do on the ground, but it's what he can do in the passing game now that Kareem Hunt is no longer here. How different is Nick Chubb going to look this year? And how often are the Browns going to, will they throw him the ball more now? Or is Jerome Ford just going to slide in and take Kareem Hunt snaps?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you went back and read that transcript from Stump, because after I said that on the podcast where Stump said that he thought he could have 1,000 yards receiving this year, I got nervous about that. And I was thinking, did he really say that? So you're confirming for me that he really did say that, right? Did you saw it with your own two eyes?
Yeah, and I just pulled it up here again. So here, I got to find the exact quote. Okay, so he's saying, given the opportunity to catch some passes, I think he'll be successful. It's an opportunity to perhaps gain 1,000 yards receiving as well.
Okay. So
yes,
he did say it. I thought maybe it was a fever dream after I said that on the podcast. But well, we know that Stump, of course, loves his running backs, and he's always stumping for them, shall we say? But anyways, so yeah, I do think there is an opportunity there for Nick Chubb to get the ball more out of the backfield. But I don't think we really know exactly how this is going to play out. I think part of it is going to be, how does Jerome Ford handle his newfound responsibilities as possibly the third down back? If he's going to be spelling Nick Chubb and he can do all the things that he needs to do on third down, including blitz pickup and all that sort of stuff, then maybe Nick doesn't get the ball out of the backfield as much as we think, or as much as Stump thinks he will. Or maybe he will. Maybe Nick's role will be fewer carries potentially this year and more catches. And I don't think we have the answer to that, the definitive answer. But we know that Nick has worked very, very hard on his hands over the years. There was that Kansas City playoff game where he dropped 2 passes. He was so mad at himself. He went back in the offseason. He worked really hard on it. And most of the time when I see him get the ball out of the backfield from Deshaun, now he's catching it. So I think he's doing a really nice job in that regard. How it will actually translate in terms of targets, I'm not sure about that. I think some of that is going to be up to Jerome.
So Nick Chubb's targets in his career, 29 as rookie year. The highest total was the Freddie Kitchens year, 49 targets in 2019. That was also the year that Kareem Hunt came back and played half the season. 2020, just 18 targets in the 2020 regular season, 25 in 2021, and 37 last year. I was actually a little surprised how many targets he had last year. Ashley, he's never gone 278 is his career high. He's only gone over 200 receiving yards twice in his career. Do you believe Nick Chubb can be an effective pass catcher, a guy that can make plays in the passing game for this team?
Yeah, I think he definitely can be an effective pass catcher. And I agree with the part of the Stump Mitchell quote talking about where he this could be like an untapped part of his game, because I think that it's funny how the question was originally framed to him was, is Nick's role going to change? And he said, no, I don't foresee it changing, but like he's going to catch more passes. So like he said no at first, but then it's not quite a backtrack, but he went on to describe a portion of how when we see Nick on the field, it could look a little bit different or have something added to it. So I don't know if Nick is going to get like 1,000 yards this year, kind of knowing what the mini overhaul of the pass catching core that's taken place. But I am really curious. Like, and I think we've seen him so far kind of working on that more, it seems like even if he's not actually out on the field in the drill, like we see him off to the sides with coaches, like working on his catching. But kind of looking at some of Kareem Hunt's numbers and his targets from previous years in Cleveland, last year he had 41 targets. 2020, he had 50 targets, which was his most targets here. And that year, according to PFF, 304 yards. So I think like if you're talking about using Nick in the passing game, like it would be really hard for him to get to 1,000 yards, which is why I think we were all kind of like, wait, what? Did we read that quote correctly? But I do think there is some yardage there, a few hundred yards that you're not going to have via Kareem Hunt. So how much are they going to use Jerome Ford there? How much can they, kind of pile that on Nick's plate too? I think it might be kind of split a little bit, but I do think there is the potential to have Nick get more passing yards than he ever has in a single season.
Are we overthinking this, Mary Kay?